As Hannah mentioned, my name's Ryan Mapes. I'm the program leader for the Business Development Network at the OSU South Centers. And what we'd like to talk about today is how you can work together with different programs, what resources are available, and we've got a few of our colleagues up here that can describe some of that. We also want to talk about the business plan, which I think you heard about in more detail, I say in more detail in regards to hop-specific stuff. We've got resources available that we can, a more general template, and we'll go through that with you here. Go to the next one. Okay. So a few of the things we'll talk about again, how you can work with the SBDC. And the SBDC is a Small Business Development Center. It's actually a nationwide program funded by the SBA and local hosts within different state agencies or universities that actually help people go out and start businesses. Or we also work with existing businesses that have different questions. So, there's probably nothing that the SBDC hasn't, any business question that the SBDC hasn't worked with. We'll also like to go over business planning outline, talk about some financing resources that could be available if you're just starting out or if you're trying to grow your farm. We'll address some myths maybe about grants, show you some websites that you can get a lot more in detail information about, and then question and answer. So at the South Centers, as part of the Business Development Network, we basically have 7 or 8 different programs. The Small Business Development Centers, one I mentioned. We also have a Manufacturing and Technology Small Business Development Center, and that can work. You hear the word manufacturing and we think of factories. Not always the case. That can be process improvement, lean practices. They can go, you can apply those same principles to really any kind of business, including farming. So we also have an International Trade Assistance Center, Statewide Cooperative Development Center, which Hannah is the director of that program. Farmers markets, we still continue to work with farmers markets throughout the state. We have a business incubator, which I manage it at the South Centers, and also have a direct marketing and tourism program. And I've hit on this a little bit already, but most of us that work with the SBDC have either previously owned a business or currently own a business. So we're there, we kind of live and breathe what we preach, so to speak. And our services are free, by the way. I'll throw that out there.
My name is Mick Whitt. I'm the manufacturing and technology specialist. Most of what I do with is helping industries with efficiency, quality, control standards, those types of things. And I'm going to be talking about a business plan. One thing we wanted to mention, at the end you'll see a website, and there are actual templates for a business plan that you can go take a look at and help you out. There's a lot of things that I deal with that are across, as Ryan mentioned, are across various industries, quality being one of those. And just briefly understanding that your type of quality control compared to what maybe I deal with in farming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it seem like that's like the most intense, seemingly magic that there is? Put something, do something, you do it the same way, seemingly every time, that you're not quite sure what's going to happen. So you're risking that, and so you want to do as much as you can to control everything that goes into that. So when we're talking about developing your business plan, there's several reasons why you would want to develop that business plan, not only actual requirements. And some of those are, for example, if you're going to be, and maybe some of you have been through this, I don't know everyone's circumstances in the room, if you're going to be seeking financing, when you go to that financial institution, that lender, you're going to have a business plan. And you're going to have everything in order. And a business plan is almost, until you submit it, really like a living, breathing document. It can change. You're going to, people come to us to get advice through that to correct or better that business plan. So if you go to that vendor, it looks better. Also, and we'll be talking later, just some generalities about grants and myths of grants. And one of those things, most grants, when you submit for that grant, one of the things you're going to have is a business plan. And so you're developing that for those reasons, but you're also developing it for yourself, to have a plan in place. And so we hear that term all the time, business plan. Well, it's not just a matter of a requirement that you have to have. It's something good for you to have that you can refer to. And as the slide says, go back, it says that your business plan serves as a roadmap. Now, when I remember when I started driving, one of the things that my dad gave me for advice, and if anybody's ever heard this, he just said, son, keep it between the ditches. So in other words, as long as I'm on the road, I'm doing okay. This business plan can help serve as that map or that road to keep you on track of this is what I said I'm going to do, this is what my plan is, and so that you're not chasing a squirrel over here or chasing this rabbit over here, and help keep you on. And it does such things as answer questions: who, what, when, where, and how. The business plan forces you to ask yourself tough questions. And so for whatever the exact reason that you're here, whether you're already in this industry or you're interested, you're just starting out, sometimes we have a dream or a vision of what it is that we want to do, but maybe in the back of our mind we've not asked ourselves those tough questions of how are we going to do this, when are we going to do it. In other words, we keep talking about it, but we don't have a deadline. We don't have something in place. The business plan, and especially as I mentioned, when you're going to a financial institution, dates have to be recorded, and specifics have to be put down and then held to that, so it will keep you on task as you go through the process. This business plan usually consists of, and as we go through this, shortly I'll turn it over, but we'll cover each one of these individually: an executive summary, business description, marketing, management, and money. The executive summary is a brief overview of the business plan. Interesting to note, the executive summary, although it is first read, it's actually maybe better to write that at the end. So you put everything else in place, you look back over your business plan, and basically you're summarizing what it is that you're going to do, and put this in this brief summary. It includes a compelling reason that business will succeed. It's your golden nugget. This is why I think. Think of something about the reason you're going into this business that excites you. The reason that you started in on this. The reason why you thought you could be successful in this industry. What was it that sparked your interest? What was it that you were sitting maybe in a place like this or talking to someone that made you interested enough to come to a conference like this that I thought, I can do that, and here's why. And if you have a compelling reason to put in that of why you succeed. And if it's being used to seek financing, include how much money is needed, for what, and for where. And you also want to include the business description, describe your company. I'm just going to go through these, it's pretty self-explanatory. Why does the company exist? What needs does the company fill? We'll talk about that a little bit more. So in marketing, is there a niche market? Is there someone, something I know that my product, and where it's going to go? What is the status of the business? Is this a new startup, existing business, planning expansion? And again, this all goes back to lenders are going to, obviously they have to know where is your business at in this process. What's the current state of the industry you serve? What are your products, services, and what sector of the industry are you in? Are you wholesale, are you retail, etc. And now I'm going to turn it over to Christie Welch.
So what I do is I work a lot with direct marketing of agricultural products throughout the state of Ohio. And so we have a team of about 12 people around the state that work with producers that need marketing assistance. And I heard a wise person say one time, you can sell one of anything. I think it's important to think about as you're developing your plan for your business. How much can you produce? How much can you sell? And for what price? And to whom? And I think those are some of the questions that you can think about early on before you ever put the first plant in the ground or work any ground or anything like that, think about who you're going to sell the product to. And I thought it was very interesting in the first session after lunch, the lady that was sharing some of the statistics about hops production in the United States, and then a little bit of information about the global markets as well. 36% increase in exporting of craft beers from the United States. I never really thought about that. Maybe that's a niche market for you. Maybe that's an opportunity for you. But again, we've talked to a lot of craft brewers that are looking for locally produced hops. But do you know how they want it? Do you know what varieties they want? Do you know when they want it? And so I think it's really important to think about who your end user is going to be before you ever put the first plant in the ground. We approach things from the aspect that we assume that you want to generate some revenue from this business and not necessarily lose revenue from this business. So again, to think about who you're going to sell your product to, I think is very important. And there are some things that we can help you with. How many people have recently been in a bigger food store, whatever it is, and gone to the beer section? What's it look like? Everybody's shaking their head no, they're doing this. Hi, that. What's the difference between today and even as little as 2 or 3 years ago? Huge amount of variety and choices, correct? So we as consumers, we love choices. What's going to make your bottle, if you're brewing, what's going to make a customer pick up your bottle out of the hundreds of bottles that they're looking at? Anybody? It's unique. But how do you convey that to your customer when I'm a customer and I'm looking at 100 different bottles on a shelf? Your label, exactly. And so again, those are some of the things that we can help you with. Developing your brand, developing your marketing plan, trying to determine who your customer is going to be. And if you think about exporting, we even have an export assistance center at Piketon where we can help with anybody that's exporting really any kind of a product outside of the country, outside of the United States. We have assistance for that as well. So I just thought it was really interesting, that statistic that she shared, a 36% increase in that particular market. Excuse me. So again, we can help you with the marketing portion of your business plan. Again, it helps you identify who your customer is, how much are they willing to pay for your product. If I had to charge $100 a pound for the hops I'm producing, is that going to be a sustainable model? I have no idea what the prices are, but I think that, probably is not sustainable. Maybe it's right on the money. But those kinds of things are questions that we can help you walk through. Who is your customer? How are you going to reach your customer? How are you going to make that customer take action to do business with your business to keep you moving forward in the long run? And so we talk about basically what I just said here, the 4 Ps. The product, the place, who you're selling it to, the price, how much are you charging for that particular product, and then how you get the word out about your particular product to your target customers. And of course, one of the things that's very important right now is using online presence, social media, some of those kinds of things to help you. And so the other thing that you need to think about in addition to the marketing side of your business plan is your management plan. And who is going to be making the critical decisions for your business? We have all worked a lot with agricultural businesses over the years. And, how come, most farmers like to be farmers because they like to be independent. They like to be out there kind of doing their thing and not having to wait around on anybody else to make decisions. On the other hand, if this is a family business, are we all on the same page? Are we doing this business to provide retirement income, to put our children through college, to help sustain the family farm? Maybe somebody thinks, well, we just want to make a couple $1,000 a year to go on a nice vacation. So the point being with the management plan, who makes the decision but I know that that doesn't happen all the time. So if there's a disagreement, how is that going to be worked out? And that is especially important not only for the sake of the health of your family, but again, if you're seeking outside financing for your business, that's going to be really important to those lenders. And that would include additional things like, what expertise does your management team bring to the business? What expertise does the management team not have? And how are you going to fill that gap? And so a lot of times we think about attorneys or accountants or insurance providers or professionals that you can bring on, rely on them for their expertise in those areas. And so then we get to the money portion, which is what everybody has lots of questions about, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris Smalley to let him share that.
So, I'm Chris Smalley. I'm a Small Business Development Center counselor at Ohio State University South Center's SBDC, and this is the question that normally people really get to, and how can I, once I get past the written part of the business plan, what everyone else has talked about, how can we get the money? How can we get what we need to make this thing go? I was a former lender with Farm Credit Services, so I dealt a lot with the agricultural industry. And we've had several sessions in the past couple months with both Farm Credit, FSA, commercial lenders. We actually had a roundtable a couple weeks ago that we got a lot of information, got a lot of feedback. They're ready and willing, as always, to lend, but then they always come up with questions, and that's why it's so important we answer some of those questions that we've talked about and addressed this today. But your personal credit also comes into play. No matter how good that business plan is, your past history, they like to see a 700 or above, on a credit score. That personal financial statement needs to look pretty good. If it's a brand new business and your personal finances aren't together, let's work to get those together, whether it's working with Credit Karma and getting that credit where it needs to be prior to even going to the lender. What available collateral do you have? They're always going to say, what are you putting up as collateral against what money you're borrowing? Sometimes people get confused on, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to borrow X number of $1,000, but I don't have anything to put up against it. We find that a lot, and it's sometimes hard for us to understand that, but we got to step back, and we've been in that industry. We know what it calls for. The cash contribution, they love to see that you've got skin in the game. So if you've got something to lose, other than the collateral, if you've got actual cash down, cash money, they like that. We're going to talk about here in just a second, like I keep referring to, some of the restrictions and things and some of the regulations that banks call for. And then, of course, the business plan. So access is to capital. Where are you going to get it? We've tried to cover all the different options out there. We may have missed one or two, but these are the ones that kind of come up and up to the top. The first one is, self-financing. Like I said, your skin in the game. 15% is normally required. If it's a higher risk type of a program or business, they're going to require more money down. Then the 3 F's, this is a fun one. Go to your friends, family, and fools to borrow money from them. This isn't necessarily a terrible thing right now, especially with how interest rates are. Interest rates are very good, but on the other side, when you're trying to invest, it's not a very good rate of return, in the stock market and that kind of thing. So if you've got a good plan, and if you've got a good idea, and you've got some friends or family or a rich uncle that wants to share in that business, that's a good place to start. Of course, like we've talked about, your banks, your government loan programs, USDA, SBA, we'll go into more detail on different programs that these places have available here in just a second. And then there's the gap lenders, microloans, community revolving loan programs. It's best to just check with your local chambers, your economic developments, your local SBDC that covers your specific area, we didn't say we do cover a 10-county region in southern Ohio, our Region 7 SBDC. How many SBDCs are in the state, Ryan? Do you remember? It's always changing, I know. 14 SBDCs in the state of Ohio, and as Ryan mentioned, and I know we have people here that are not from the state of Ohio, there's also SBDCs in every other state as well. So, you know, I urge you to contact them and kind of start there with programs that may be available that can assist you. Then, of course, there's the investors option. This is a new and emerging industry. It's kind of a cool thing, like Christie talked about. It's growing in terms of the final product. So some of these investors, they like that. They like that thing. They can be tied to that. So there's maybe an option there with angel investors or going public, crowdfunding, that type of thing. There's always the suppliers that you can share funding with. Equity capital, you raise money in exchange for share of ownership. And then something I just added in, it's, you know, I have my own business as well, and I've taken advantage of this on some short sale things, but be very careful. But there are some very good credit card options out there as well. 0% financing for sometimes 12, 18, even 24 months, but make sure you're making not just the minimum payment. Make sure you divide that out by whatever that is so you don't get charged the 21% after the initial term. But that can be something that can really help you grow and use it as an operating loan essentially. Again, check with your local chambers, check with your SBDCs, economic developments, see what other programs may be available in your local area. So 100% financing it's a thing of the past. Sort of. You can get a shared, there are programs out there through FSA and Farm Credit or FSA and another commercial lender that they can do up to 100% financing. So if you don't have money to put down, there are options. However, paperwork's like that and it's not very easy, but there are options. So if that's where you are, check with your local FSA or your local Farm Credit or your local commercial lender and see what options may be available. But again, the reality is 95% of small businesses start with a combination of your savings, loans from friends and relatives, and then a combination there of the commercial lenders and economic developments. Anybody remember this guy? That's probably 10 or 15 years old, but grants, we get it every week. How can I get a grant to start my business? The answer is, usually you can't find a grant to start your business. The following slides, though, we will provide you with some general information about a few grants that may be available and tips on how to decipher between credible programs. Ryan, you want to go over these?
As Chris mentioned, we do get the grant question quite a bit. And, you know, myth is the government will give you money to start your business. You know, in the 8 years, going on 9 years I've been doing this, still haven't found that grant that's out there for that. One thing I would caution everyone in the room to look at, and I've actually had clients come to me that have done this. There are online companies, maybe we'll say they're online, that say, give me money and I'll find a grant that'll fit your business need. And sometimes that is in the form of $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. The fact is, you give them the money, they may look for a grant, but they're not going to find one. And I've actually had 2 clients for probably a total of $3,500 that have gotten ripped off over the fact or the myth that it was advertised that there are grants to help you start your small business. I guess what I would caution you and say, if you come across a program like that or have any questions, please see someone in a position that could, you know, an SBDC for an example, that could help you walk through and make sure that it's legit. Another myth, the Small Business Administration has grants available for small business owners. That's not necessarily true either. Majority, and I'll just sum everything up, SBA is a government program. USDA is a government program. Lots of government programs out there. Probably to sum everything up, there are, these entities do offer grants. But more than likely, you'll find that these grants are available for educational institutions, research facilities. It's not for for-profit small businesses. Okay. We did put the grant resources on here, the websites. I think you have them in your folder, so I won't go over them individually. But those are the ones that are legit that we know of. But as I mentioned before, those are more for research, educational purposes.
I just wanted to mention one thing as far as grants are concerned. Being in agriculture, there are a few opportunities available to agricultural producers that are not available to the general public. And so, again, just like these folks said, you have to be very careful. What is the project that you're going to do, and why is somebody going to give you money? So the first two questions to ask yourself is, do I, as an entity applying, qualify for the program? And the second question is, what I'm wanting to do, does it qualify for the program? And if you cannot answer yes to both of those questions, you're wasting your time. And the reason I say that, how many people have heard about the Value-Added Producer Grant Program? Value-Added Producer. So it goes to producers of agricultural products, but it's very, very specific on what they'll allow that money to be used for. It won't build buildings, it won't purchase land, it won't buy equipment, it'll help you do some marketing, maybe look at some inventory things and those kinds of things. So if you hear grants, make sure you get somebody that knows what they're talking about to help you through that process.
And so Christie just went right into this slide, almost like she knows it's there. But yeah, identify that funding source, get the correct application forms, follow that guideline. I can tell you a quick story. I know we're up against a time frame here, but we're last, so we can go as long as we want, right? I had a client, and I'll mention the organization here in a second, but I had a client apply for a grant, a one-to-one grant, agricultural grant. Applied, to my knowledge, got approved to a point. However, it worked. He didn't send in a copy of his license. One thing he missed out on $25,000 because he didn't send a copy of his license in. So make sure you follow all the directions, because that one thing could knock you out. And get help, and then develop that well-prepared business plan like we talked about already. So we have compiled, we're down to 2 slides, we have compiled a bunch of websites for you. As I think Ryan mentioned, these are going to dive even deeper into sources to make your business better. These are all of the money websites of interest. So we've got the State Treasurer's Office in Ohio, and again, I apologize for any of you that are not Buckeyes in the room. Look on your state's what's available. Like I said, check with your SBDC, but I would assume it's a lot the same. But we've got the treasurer. He has several different programs. AgLink is an operating program, and other programs available. They've left me. But on his website, very user-friendly, and they are interest rate buy-down options. So they partner with a bank that you get lending from. Of course, ODSA has one entire page of a ton of different programs available, and you just have to go through and see what is available out there for your specific program. Finance Fund is in Columbus, I believe, and it's a local business where owners and entrepreneurs with public and private funding to help spark their community development and create jobs. We just had them at this event I was talking about earlier, and they're ready to go. They've got a lot of good programs available. Of course, the USDA with the Farm Service Agency and NRCS, they too have programs available, lending programs. Like Ryan's touched on, the SBA, you go to a commercial lender that is SBA approved, and you don't apply for an SBA Act loan, and more or less what it turns into is an insurance policy, is how I can best describe it, up to X number of percentage that then that bank is not on the hook for, that the federal government is on the hook for. OVRDC is one of our local, it's a regional funding source we utilize a lot for a gap funder. Again, I urge you to contact your local area and see what's available in your area for that type of thing, but they'll do up to $250,000 or $350,000 in gap funding for just these types of programs. They love agricultural type of things. SOA CDF is another one of those that actually the story I told you about. That's a tobacco, it was created with tobacco funding, and that's kind of running out, but we've utilized them a lot as well. And the Economic and Community Development Institute is a private entity that looks for funding for your type of program. And then just informative websites of interest, add them to the whole list that you're getting this week, but there at the top is our contact information. Of course, the Ohio Small Business Development Center's website there that you can find out which center works for you, which center's in your area. The Secretary of State, once you're in business, you'll become very familiar with them, as well as the Ohio Business Gateway. That's where you pay all your taxes. The Department of Taxation, ODA, IRS is where you get your EIN and all of that information. Again, we can help you do all that if you're at that point of, I want to start this business. We can help you make sure you're doing that correctly. Then of course USDA, Farm Service Agency, and U.S. Natural Resources. So that is all, unless someone has something to add. Any questions or comments quickly? And
Just one quick thing, I would encourage everyone